We'll build this together, any type of weather. Unity is key. Keeping first G-O-D. We will conquer the world. Baby, just you and me. I can vision us now. One big happy family.
What's up, y'all? Lonnie Walker.
And Latoya Walker. Welcome to We the Walkers.
So, babe, we got some special guests on
Special
today.
guest.
Who do we have with us today?
We have Pastor and First Lady. This is Matt Davis and Fallon Davis,
Hello,
our friends.
hello.
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome to our podcast. You guys are only the second couple that we've interviewed, so I still got the nerves, but that's okay.
Listen, we are honored and feel so blessed to be here with y'all today. So,
Thank you.
yeah, this is exciting.
It's excited to be with the Walkers.
So, Matt, we go back. So,
Yeah.
Matt went to school and played with my brother, so his legend is known.
Oh,
They went to KF, and
Yeah.
so that's
You know
how I
what it
knew
is.
Matt. They got his jersey up at the barbershop and framed up and everything. So, I was like, man, who's this Matt guy?
Yeah.
And so now you is he.
And
Yeah.
something else, your best friend dated my cousin, who is like our daughter.
Allegedly, hypothetically.
It's true.
No, they was together.
Yeah,
Well,
they
they was talking at least.
Yeah.
Minimum.
And
Yeah,
so she's the mother of our goddaughter. So it's like we're family. y'all.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
family.
we're connected.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we'll
So-
talk about what happened with that relationship another
I
time.
don't know.
So just introduce you guys yourselves. Tell the people what you want them to know about you guys.
Go ahead, love.
Well, my name is Fallon Davis. This is my husband, Matthew Davis. What? I don't know. What do you want to say? How do you want to introduce us? You introduce us, babe.
You see that? See how that goes? She don't do it, and I go. So yeah, we are the parents of a beautiful 6-month-old daughter named Zoe. We call her Big Zoe.
Yes.
We are the parents of a 130-pound Rottweiler named Rocco, and we also get to pastor a super dope church called Blueprint.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
That's who we are.
That's
We're young.
right.
We're young. We are lively. We're learning. We're excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just super dope to be here. I don't know what y'all have a question that you want me to answer.
Right.
You got, Toy. I got something for you.
You're always picking on me, Fallon.
Right. I know.
What you got?
Thank you.
Well, let's start out with the short, because I know it's like a 2-hour story. How y'all met and how y'all came together.
Now, do y'all want the truth or y'all want Matthew's version?
We just want the
Oh, my
We
abbreviated.
done already went through this.
We want the abbreviated, and we was together. We loved each other.
Well, Matthew was peeping me out. That's what's
course.
really, of course, right?
There we
Latoya, you
go.
know.
As a pursuer should.
Right. And so we have a lot of mutual friends. And so from my understanding, he was like asking about me. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, she's a great girl. Like, I think that this would be good. So fast forward, he slid in my DMs. That's, a new thing with millennials. So he slid up. I had posted something and he slid up and commented. And we started talking from there. And I mean, ever since he can't stop bringing my line.
Right,
Like,
he keep bringing your name up.
I
he
mean,
keep stalking your page.
Latoya, you know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let that rock. Yeah.
But no, the rest really is history. God really, I feel like, wrote our story. We met when I was in college and he was finishing up college, and we were long distance for the first few years. And God has really he's been doing the unbelievable, I
Was
feel
it
like, since we
8, 9
met.
years ago?
Yeah. So,
Wow,
yeah.
Man,
that's beautiful.
I know,
So
right?
you said long distance. So where were you and where were you?
I was traveling back and forth between Dallas and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I finished up my senior season. I tore my ACL, but I had declared for the draft, so I was trying to pursue the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So my agent lived in Dallas, so I'll be in Dallas, and then I come back to Houston. She was in college at Mizzou, so
Yeah.
she was in
Columbia, Missouri.
Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Come up, yeah, she was in, and so we were just kind of go back and forth. She typically came to Texas more than I went up there to Missouri.
Yeah.
'cause
And
was
then I
training.
moved to New York.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So
What
yeah.
sent you out there?
I actually worked for CNBC. I was a journalist. So I thought my
Mhm.
life I was going to be on Good Morning America one day and all
You
this
still
other
You
may.
still
stuff.
are.
So you never
You
know,
still-
right?
okay.
Well, you
You
right
never
there.
But
know.
this time they gonna be interviewing her.
Right.
Right.
I thought I would be
Right.
doing the interviewing,
Right.
but
You
who knows? They might
Right.
interview
You're gonna write that
us.
bestseller, and you're gonna be on
Right.
there. And be
I'm
like,
speaking it.
yeah,
I
You actually
believe
have
it.
been on Good Morning America before.
I was.
Yeah, you and your
was.
mama.
My mom and I on my birthday, actually, they had
Oh,
us
wow.
come on and we were doing some things. It was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was there for journalism and then right when I graduated school, and then God told me to come back to Houston.
Wow.
And yeah, and then a year later, Matthew proposed to me. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're here now.
She
So-
actually has a very storied history when it comes to like her gifting and communications and journalism, creativity.
Yeah.
She worked for CNN. She's worked for CNBC. She's done a lot. She worked for the #1 news station in Missouri. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I got to steal.
All right.
That's awesome.
See them
Alan.
boasting about me.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know that. That's awesome.
that is
Thank
amazing.
She
you.
ran,
Thank you.
ran communications at one of the largest churches
Yeah.
in Houston for a
Mhm.
while.
And now I get to run creative for Blueprint.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I could tell when we went to your it's not called opening. Is that
Our
what?
Yeah,
launch.
our launch service.
Launch. See,
Mhm.
there you go. When you went up on stage, I thought, oh my gosh, she has such a presence.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Right?
you. Thank
It was
you.
very authentic. So
Oh, thank
I
you,
should have known.
Latoya.
Should have known.
Thank
But
you.
so Matt, you were talking about he mentioned that you played ball with his
Mhm.
brothers and
I
that
did.
you were a legend. He knew you before he knew you.
Come on,
Because-
you don't have to be modest.
Right.
Like,
He loves to be modest.
I know he does, but let's just keep it 100, dude. You one of
It
the
makes
best,
me it makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
but you did what you did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we ain't talking about GOAT, but you were one of the best athletes to come out of Houston
For sure.
Mm.
at that time.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And we both know you don't get injured.
hmm
We might not even be talking to you right now because you might be
Probably not.
out there doing that thing.
Aren't you so thankful you are, Matt?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I say this in all transparency. I think we had this conversation
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a few weeks ago. Like, although my life very well could have been different, at this point in my life, and probably I'd say for like the last maybe like 24 to 30 months, I recognize that even if I would have got what I prayed for,
Mm.
I wouldn't have wanted it as much as I enjoy what I do now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, I would have been a hell of a lot richer. I don't know if I can say hell, but I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
I would have made. I would have had a lot of money, different things, but I wouldn't have met my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't have accepted my calling.
Yeah.
Mm.
I wouldn't get to pastor what I think is the dopest church in the world,
Mhm.
and meet some of the people. And I
Little
just,
Zoe.
and yeah, I wouldn't have Zozo. But I wouldn't be me,
Yeah.
which is I think that I recognize that at this point in my life, I really like myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And at
good.
some point in time, I didn't. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I played ball. I was pretty good at it. And
Very good.
Yeah.
and I had a lot of injuries. Like I broke my hand. I've torn both ACLs, torn my shoulder, broke my foot before. But it was fun. It gave me an opportunity to experience life in a way that I never would have been able to. I got to meet people. I got to forge friendships. I learned adversity. But it was just a vehicle. It wasn't the destination.
Mm.
Yeah. That's
Most
good.
people wouldn't have that perspective
Mhm.
because I know with our conversations with you guys that you said that your identity was wrapped up into football.
100%.
Right. And for it to end so drastically and tragically,
Yeah.
how was that? And you guys were together at that time, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I want to hear your perspective
Mhm.
on how it was for you to navigate his
Yeah.
emotions because of
Yeah.
course you're going to have some hard feelings in that.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course we want to hear what that was for you because that's a major life transition.
Yeah.
I would say for me, that was one of the hardest, I feel like, times to watch. Because so I also had heard of Matt Davis, right? And I lived all the way on the south side of Houston.
Wow.
And he's a north side dude.
Right.
But I just heard
Realist.
heard
I
through
don't
the
know, maybe she was checking
grapevine.
for you.
I
heard the legend.
I heard
Uh-huh.
right about this guy who was pretty good at football. And so, but unfortunately, I never got to see him play. But I was at pro day, and I knew his heart and how much he really, really wanted that. And so to watch somebody like work their whole life for something and then almost see it get snatched away,
Yeah.
and then watch his emotions, like you said, of the anger, the disappointment, the resentment, the disappointment with God, the fear and insecurities that came up of like, who is he, like beyond football and stuff, which he can talk more into, but just to watch that all kind of like crumble right before your eyes. It was tough. It was very tough because it was like there was nothing I can do. And Matthew can tell you, like, when it comes to him, like, I'm super protective, like bulldog, like, don't mess with my husband.
Okay.
And so it was like I felt like, man, like there's nothing I can do in this space. Like there's nothing I can do but be here and support you. But like I can't call the teams and be like, put him on the team now. He deserves it. And so, yeah, that was, I feel like was one of the hardest times in our relationships. But I will also say it also brought us the closest together in that time. So how do you feel, babe?
Yeah, no doubt. I think I'm a firm believer that adversity breeds intimacy.
Yeah.
Like when somebody is with you in the depth of a thing,
Yeah.
that's where you really get to grow the closest. I mean, y'all know, y'all been married for how long now?
23 years.
Yeah.
It'll be
23 years. Like it's not the honeymoons, it's not the greatest moments. Like those are things that you remember. That's not what brings you close.
That's right.
No.
That's
What
right.
brings you close is when it's like, I feel like I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like everything in me is wanting to quit. Maybe not in the marriage, but in life. Like because when I was going through that rough moment, like me and her weren't struggling. I was struggling. But it was the fact that when I was struggling, I didn't struggle by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
that she was there to hold on to me. So for me, it was really tough. It was to be honest with you, there's things that even now in therapy, I still have to flesh out because I didn't recognize, like, I'm healthy, but there are things that, like remnants that I don't recognize that from my childhood, or for certain things that are still wrapped into the idea of it. Whether it's a performance type culture, whether it's anxiety that I dealt with, a fear of failure. Like it wasn't until I recognized in therapy one day that my therapist was like, "Hey, like, what do you really think about God?" And I'm a full pastor at this point in time. And I was like, man, I think that when I really think about it, sometimes I just feel like trusting him isn't safe. Because I felt like I trusted you with my whole life, and you let me get into this place. Now, obviously, I didn't think that, but I believed that internally somewhere. So it was like I said, it was a little part of a remnant, that a part of me that was like, hey, I just don't know. I'm a little apprehensive. So it was really difficult. It was super difficult because I felt like I was bred to be a football player. I felt like everything that I wanted to do, I chose my school based on ball. I chose what I ate based on ball. The time that I woke up, like everything, I knew how much I weighed in the morning because of football. I knew everything that I did, it was wrapped around one central thing. So then when you get to be 24, 25, 26, and then all of a sudden that central almost nucleus gets ripped, everything else that's attached to it, you don't even know. People ask me for hobbies. I didn't have hobbies.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. Like I played dominoes and stuff like that, but like I didn't know what I liked.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so choosing a career profession was really difficult. Like all those things was very, very difficult because if it was not attached to ball, what would I do? I started ministry because of football.
Yeah.
Like the first two ministries and Bible studies I ever started was with my teammates.
Yeah.
And they grew to 50, 60 people a week. But in my mind, I was like, I'm just doing this because I'm here to play ball.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like when you recognize that everything that kind of goes, and so it's very easy. And I did it with football, but some people do it with their marriage. Some people do it with their career. Some people do it with their children. Dreams, with their children.
Yes.
Some people do it with their friendships. Like it is very easy to not only build your identity around it, but what you recognize is that identity becomes an idol
Absolutely.
because it's not godly.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's like it's not good. Football was for my good,
Yeah.
but I made it an idol.
Yeah.
And when it got broken, it broke me.
Mhm.
And so it is something, and I recognized very early on that God allowed that to happen with me, and he kind of matured me through it, because I also see how pastors find their identity in being a pastor.
That's so good. Sit in that.
It
Sit
is,
in
but I'm
that.
saying it's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
Because especially, and don't let your church be thriving. Don't let your
Yeah.
church be growing. Don't let people be praising you. Because in that moment, then it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's easy to do that. I'll walk away from my church today
Yeah.
if God asked me to.
That's good.
It would break my heart.
Yeah.
But I've already left.
But you've already had that.
I've already had that before.
Right.
Right.
It would break my heart. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I'm not walking away from is her.
That's
Period.
good.
And so, you know what I'm saying? So I just say that to say, like, hey, I have God prep me,
Yeah.
especially coming into a Blueprint, because it's very easy. You have temptations to find your life wrapped in around other things. And I'm rambling now, but yeah, it was a
No,
you
you speaking good, Pastor. You speaking good.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
Something that you said that struck a nerve in me, because I've heard my mentor say it, is having faith trauma. When you trust God and you're like, I believe, I fasted, I prayed, I wrote on my vision board,
Oh my
I wrote it in my journal, write it down, make it clear. I believe this. I had signs and people told me and confirmations. And then God says, no.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
That
It
is.
makes you afraid to trust the next thing
Yeah.
in him, right?
1,000%.
So how in the world? First, I want to know how your family helped you, and you can go into how you helped, because I know that you were there to help, and I know you probably felt really helpless,
Right.
but I know you did help, and also how your family helped you with that transition, and then how you got to be back good with God.
Yeah. So let me answer this for you first. So the biggest thing was this. Nobody really knows what to do. And I think it's the same thing with, because at the end of the day, football is just like, let's just say it's just X. It's just a variable. Everybody has their
that thing.
What you're really dealing with is grief and disappointment.
Right.
So it's very similar, essentially, to if somebody loses a family member.
Right.
Or somebody,
Right.
because you're just dealing with loss.
Right.
You're dealing with disappointment. And what do you do when somebody's going through a tragic loss? I hate when people want to talk. Shut up. Everybody, just stop talking. People don't need to talk. Just sit. Just be there. For sometimes you don't need to hear a word.
Right.
Don't come and preach. Like, that's the same thing. I hate when people, like, you know, somebody goes through something. Don't come to me quoting scriptures.
The Bible says.
I don't want to hear that. And I'm a pastor. Don't come to me quoting scriptures right now.
Right.
If you want to be here, be here.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like my family, like they try to do a lot of things. And I'm a pretty
direct.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna use that word.
Yeah.
Y'all know him. Okay.
We'll
use that word.
But what she did is she was just there. And to highlight my wife, that season for me is one of the biggest reasons as to why I married her. That, and how she handled me because with that, it wasn't just me and not having ball, but I didn't have any money. And for me, like, I didn't grow up with money. When I got to college, I hustled, I made money, I did whatever. I bought shoes, flipped shoes, I did whatever. Like, I was a hustler. I could make money, but I went through this time period of trying to chase a league, and I was broke. I mean, like, broke.
Yeah.
You know, and she was there. Like, she didn't, you know, or whatever. I got in a car accident the day of the draft, so I didn't have a car. I was driving my agent's 1980 some Mercedes. I didn't have a house because I broke my lease because I thought I was gonna go to the league. I gave away all my furniture to my teammates and my TVs. I didn't have that, so I didn't have a car. I didn't have a place to stay. My dad let me stay at the crib, like, and she was with me.
Yeah.
So how she was there, how she was present in that moment, and I always say, people ask, like, why did you marry her? There's a lot of reasons, but the main two is that she makes my life easier and better. Everything that I went through is easier because she's there. And every hard time is better because she's there. When I recognized, I was like, man, that you make my life easier and better. in every aspect. That hard time, it would have been, I might have not been here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
literally.
Like for real.
Yeah, you know what
Literally.
I'm saying? If I did not have her as a stabilizer. And so, yeah, I mean, I can talk about how I responded in faith later, but that's what she did for me. She was, you know, what we say, a very present help. She was just
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Oh my God.
Look, I got tissues for y'all.
Right, just in case. I would say for me, like he said, and like I mentioned earlier, just watching him go through that was really hard. But I knew that he didn't need all the words, right? Even though his love language is words of affirmation. And so I had to like really pray and ask God to help me find a balance of like, okay, giving him affirmation that we're like, you're not going to be here forever. Like you are the chosen one. Cause I remember telling him that, like, I believe that God has chosen you for something big. Like I know this, like, and I see it. I had dreams that he would be preaching and stuff. He hated when I would tell him that. But I had to find the balance of like speaking into him and then also just like sitting and being with him and also like recognizing that like, man, okay, this does suck. Like, let's just be honest. Let's just keep it real.
Right.
Like, this sucks. Like, this time period that we're in is tough. Like, but we're not going to be here forever. And I would also just to tell, I mean, my husband did a great job of also like, he is a man's man in the sense of like he said, he's a hustler. Even when he didn't have money, he would still find a way to like, okay, let's I'm gonna do this so that way I can take Fallon to the movies and then to dinner or you know whatever. And so he did, I would say, put in a lot of work to still like, even though we may not have had what we have today, right? We still were able to like have fun and like be together and really get to know one another and really build that intimacy with one another in those early stages, which is why he's my best friend to this day. We riding and dining, baby.
The couple that we interviewed, they had a commonality with you guys. They started off very young and they had kids very young. But before they started having kids, they really got to know each other intimately. They didn't have a lot. And they were like, whatever is mine is yours, whatever is yours is mine. And we're about to rock this out together. I think that's what God wants us to do in marriage. What we feel like is we have a calling to grab each other's hands and forge forward toward what God is calling us to do.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful, but you have to have the foundation of that. And going through those hard times, going through the trials and being there for one another, seeing all that you are when you're devastated and broken and traumatized is what really brings people together. And we have a story like that too. And I just feel like we're connected in that as well.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you talking about how broke you were, I was not a legend in any sport. I was a good basketball player, but when we met, I ain't had nothing. She was here in Houston. I'm in Huntsville. She's sending me money for rent. I mean, I'm broke.
Yeah.
And then you build a bond, and then it's like, man, she riding for me. I can't offer her nothing. Like I told the story the first day we met. I was like, I don't have no money. I don't have no car. I'm sitting here with one of the baddest ever to walk.
Period.
And I'm sitting in this car with her, bro. And I'm like, she wanting me. And I'm like, well, babe, you know I don't have no money. I don't have no car. But I think I love you. This day 3.
Yeah.
So
Talk about it, huh?
I understand. So I understand, like, and she rode with me all the way. And I mean, it was 4 years before we had a little bit of money.
Right.
Now it's on a different level now. Now. So tell us a little bit how Blueprint birthed, the process, y'all young married, new baby, new church,
parents.
y'all new.
Everything is new.
That's a big commitment, a big deal. First of all, just parenting
Hello.
by itself.
Hello.
People think they know, but they don't know until
No.
they get into
Mhm.
the hurricane of it. Right?
Truly.
And then you are birthing
Uh-huh.
God's vision for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in awe of it, really.
Yeah.
Matthew and
Yeah.
I always joke. We say we had two babies. We had twins.
Absolutely.
We had Zoe, and then we had Blueprint.
Absolutely.
Because we really, everything kind of like happened at one time.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
tell them the story, babe?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think, I don't know how it sounds, but I'm gonna say it. I think we're kind of in awe of it.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
You know, it is an unbelievable thing. I think that when we're in the middle of in the eye of the storm,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't really
Mm.
see it.
Mhm.
But when you look at it on paper,
It's like, whoa.
it's absurd.
Insane.
Right.
It's crazy to think about. And I think that also, I couldn't do it without the perfect teammate. And when I'm saying it's not like I'm saying that I'm doing it or just leading it, but it is both. It is a tug and a pull on both of us mentally, spiritually, emotionally,
Absolutely.
physically.
Absolutely.
It is hard, and it reminds me not to be so pastoral, but it reminds me of like in Genesis that like he's like, hey, it's not good for him to be by himself.
Yeah.
I have to create a helpmate for there is a vision, there's something here, and there needs to be a team to steward this properly.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of from an overall standpoint, like how we started Blueprint years ago. I don't know what year it was, but whenever I accepted my calling, this time it was
2018,
7, 8 years
2019.
ago,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like she said, she brought up how she would always like bring up to me this idea that she would see me preaching
Yeah.
in front of thousands, and I just wanted to curse her out.
He did. He was like, "You don't see me playing." I'm like, "No."
I'm
sorry.
I don't have them dreams, and I'm like, and she's like, I just know I just see you in front of, and
Wow.
I'm like,
Did.
she don't hear from God. You know what I'm saying? It's evident that you know you not saved. You know what I'm saying?
You could do both, man. You got
Nah,
you
at that
can
point, in my mind, I said,
No,
nah, she don't know.
No
God.
way.
She don't know. Whoever I know, she don't know. But I remember it, and so at that lowest point in my life, like I said, no car, no money, no house. I'm like $20-some thousand in debt. I have less than $1,000 in my bank account. Like, it was bad. I'm walking around my dad's neighborhood. I just got back from working out, hoping and praying like, God, you're gonna change something.
Oh, wow.
And I remember I'm walking, crying and cussing and praying, all in the same breath.
Man.
Walking, crying, cussing, praying. It's possible.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there, and I said, God, you lied to me. You told me that I was gonna do this. You told me that I was gonna be here. You told me. You lied to me. I don't know why I follow you. I don't know why X, Y, and Z. And he said, you'll fail at everything you do until you do what I told you to do.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm.
And it was like, it was almost, have y'all seen that movie Deep Blue Sea with L.
Yeah, I
Oh
have.
yeah, with LL.
Do you remember there's that moment when the shark threw that gurney into the aquarium wall, and you could just see it start cracking.
The little crack, and then all of a sudden,
it's like,
one
yeah.
crack, boom, boom, and it's like I always use this analogy because it was like in that moment, it was like for a long time ago, like God was slowly cracking at my heart, and that was the last crack, and it was just like this. I said, "Okay, God, I'll do it." And it was like this tidal wave rushed into my heart, into my mind, and I just saw this vision, and I started seeing what she would say, and it didn't make sense. But I'm like, I knew that him and I were now on the same page, that he was talking about me pastoring a church. And I started seeing this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how the heck this is gonna happen. Like, I don't know any of this. Nobody's taught me. I don't know nothing. Like,
Wow.
you know, like I preached in college, but I wasn't really doing it. Like, you know, and at that moment, I just said, okay, and I wrote whatever it is that he told me down. She's the one that said, I was like, man, I don't have a name. It was later on that evening, and she said, I think it's Blueprint.
Yeah.
Come
And I
on,
was like-
prophetess.
And I say,
Mhm.
hey, listen.
It's because of what he kept saying. He was like, man, it's just like, I just want this to be a blueprint of this. I want this. And he just kept saying it. And he was like, but I don't have a name. And I was like, you said it.
Because I was also
The
saying, like, I
blueprint.
wish that there was a blueprint.
Yeah.
I wish that
Yes.
somebody
Oh,
showed
somebody
me.
had
That's
a
good.
blueprint.
That's
yes. And I
good.
was like, that's it.
And
right
she was like,
there.
and I was like, nah, God not gonna tell you. He gonna
right.
tell
I
me.
was like, oh, okay.
You gotta talk after this
Y'all see,
podcast.
this-
You listen
this-
to your wife.
Listen, y'all see the
Well, that was young me. I
prideful
listened to it
part.
now.
Okay.
Good. Learn a
That was
lesson.
Right.
young me, and and so I said that to say, and the next day I woke up, my cousin had texted me, and she said, "God told me to tell you that whatever." I haven't spoken to my cousin in months. She said, "God told me to tell you that whatever you've been praying for is going to be a blueprint for it."
Look.
And then a couple hours later, her mom texted me, who's my auntie, who is my rock,
Mhm.
and she said, "Hey, baby, I don't know what it is, but God said that you're going to be a blueprint."
Mm,
And that's not a word
Let
that
the
you
church
just
say
use.
amen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
That's 3. Confirmation.
Absolutely.
3. Hello.
So that was years ago, and so we wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in a Google Doc, wrote this up in the journal, put it back, and said, I'm not going to open this up. We're at another church. So I said, God, I'm just going to serve. We're going to do it. And we did that for years.
Mhm.
And then I think end of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
God put it on our heart. And we was like, okay, God, like like I said, we hadn't worked on it, thought about it at all. And so he gave us that word. We took initiative to say, okay, let's see how we can go about this. We talked to our leaders, we talked to mentors. And then we started prepping and planning, and we waited for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
to launch.
Yeah.
We took an entire year of 2022 to, first of all, do things with integrity.
Mm.
Second of all, to see what God was saying.
Right.
And like I think I only went and preached like 3 times that year.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make, God was really asking me to be still.
Yeah.
mhm.
And 2023, we announced
Mm-hmm.
that we were planning. Didn't even know what date was going to be our launch date.
No.
And it ended up being in January. And yeah, we had a pretty dope launch.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Mhm.
I want to go back to what you said, that you guys, you knew the call,
Mhm.
right? You were clear about it because you had
Mhm.
confirmation,
Yeah.
but you wanted to step out with integrity
Mm-hmm.
and to
Yeah.
sit in the stillness to make sure.
Yeah.
A lot of times people get the understanding of what they're going to be doing, right?
Right.
And they immediately, they're like, let's go on, get excited.
Right.
And often that's an issue.
It's a sign of immaturity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because there's 2 things in there. There's 2 things that, one, God told us what we would be doing years before we did it.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
But just because he told you to do something don't mean it's time.
Right.
And it is a lack of not just immaturity, but it's a lack of integrity.
Right.
If you steward your place, like when I was leading and serving at my previous church, I wasn't looking at it as a means to an end.
Absolutely
Right.
I
not.
wasn't looking at it as an opportunity to get to my next.
Right.
I was serving that house because I loved that, and I loved that house.
Right.
Like that, and it was like, hey, I'm not doing this until I get to there. No, I'm here until you tell me to go somewhere else.
Right.
And the second thing is that even after I left, when you talk about integrity, is that when we left, we took time to figure out, God, what are you saying? And then how do you want to do it?
Right.
Because we didn't build out of ambition, we built out of obedience.
Right.
Say that again.
And that's
That's
the problem. I
good.
said,
And a lot of
that's a
people
lack
miss
of
that.
immaturity.
Right.
People miss that. So say it again for
people,
real.
People want to build out of ambition, not out of obedience.
Right.
Mhm.
If no matter where I was, even when I was in Dallas, in Houston, no matter what it is, like we wouldn't have launched a church if God didn't say launch a church.
Right.
And it's the same thing. People shouldn't launch a business if God don't say launch a business.
Right.
A lot of times people just look on the return
Mhm.
and they don't look on the investment.
That's
Right.
right.
And also they don't look on the integrity of it. That
Absolutely.
God would, if you're called to build something for the kingdom, God will tell you what to build.
And
And
will
he'll tell
bless
you
it.
when to
And he will
build.
Yes.
bless it.
He will bless it, but he'll tell you what to build, how to build, and when to build. That's
Right.
another reason why, if I can just take a second to brag on our church is dope because our church is, no pun intended, it's a blueprint church.
Right.
It's not,
Mm.
I didn't build out of what I saw. We
Mhm.
didn't build out of what we saw. We built off of what we heard.
Mm.
Right.
So we went and we listened to what God said.
Yes.
I didn't go to other churches and say, I like this, I don't like this, let's build this out. No. We built it how God said to build it.
Wow.
In the same way, if you look at Moses, if you look at Noah, anybody in Nehemiah, anytime God told him to build something, he was specific in how you build it. And you can tell when you walk into a church that looks like every other church that you've been
That's
into.
right.
And that's no shade to it, because maybe that was y'all's vision. That wasn't for us. We wanted to build something that was specific because there was a specific purpose and a mission.
Yep.
So we wanted to make that church and make that make the tangibility in the materialized version look like what it is that he said.
Right.
Even if it wasn't what I wanted.
Mm.
Because that's how you know you build out obedience. Because
Absolutely.
you get tempted to say, well, it looks better to do it this way.
Right.
It's
Because you're used to certain
this
things.
is more
Right.
attractive.
Right.
No, I wasn't building off of attraction. We
Right.
weren't doing this off of attraction. Like, it was things that she would come to me and she'd be like, hey, I feel like God is saying X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, let's take it before God and let's do it.
Yeah.
Also, why I said that it took us 2 years to plant, because we wanted to, we would still be waiting right now.
Yeah.
Because she knows, like, at the end of the day, we co-lead together. And she'll defer to me on like senior decisions. But when we come together, like, we would still be sitting in our living room, game planning and thinking about what it would look like if we did not hear from God to say this was time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because that's what I'm saying. You build out of obedience, not out of ambition.
Absolutely.
Some people just want what it looks like.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
And
right.
that's why they get out there and get their butt kicked.
I was going to say, God has not built your shoulders to handle it. And you go out there and you're crushed, and you look at God and you say, well, God, you said,
Right.
but Joseph, you have time that you need to go through certain things. David, you need to go out into that wilderness and build some maturity.
Right.
Right.
You still need
but
to
people
shepherd
want to
those
run
sheep.
out. Right. Exactly.
And they end up manufacturing their own disappointment.
Yep.
And blame
Matthew
God for
said
it.
that, and I was just about to say, he said this in a sermon, that sometimes we manufacture our own disappointments because we're not stewarding our prayer life correctly. And I was like, man, that's so true.
That's
like,
good.
how many of us are looking at God disappointed? Like, man, God, this didn't happen the way I thought it was. And it's like, exactly, because you thought it was. Like,
Exactly.
you didn't even come to me in prayer. Like,
That's good.
So
That
yeah,
is so good.
and our team too. I'm even going to shout out our team. They were even patient with us in the building process of like, okay, like, let us go to God in prayer. Let us fast. Like, let us really seek God's face on like, what does blueprint look like? Not because all of us come from different backgrounds and have different experiences and stuff. And so when we came together as a team, like Matthew and I together, and then when we brought other people on, they all knew like, listen, like, this is not our church. This is God's church.
Absolutely.
And so whatever God says, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And
I love
so,
that.
Yeah.
And like, just to add into that, like, you have to be obedient in how you build, because God is only going to bless what it is that He requested.
That's right.
Like,
Absolutely.
if He asks you to do a specific way, then He wants to bless that. And that's why you have to take time in your building, because we get inundated and oversaturated with all these different things that we see. And if you do that, then you'll end up just building. Like, how do you think that the Israelites built? Why do you think they built a calf? The moment, like, it's because they had seen, like, it was something that they were used to.
Right.
And God was trying to do something new.
Right.
And so for us, like, we've been around so many dope churches.
Absolutely.
Well, so many dope leaders, so many dope different like situations. And then we've seen things like, man, I think that we would do this different. But if you do not take time to really go to God and say, what is it that you want? You will only build off of what it is that you desire.
That's right.
Exactly.
So
That's
part
right.
of the building process is having to take time to say, let me remove, if you want to build for God. If you want to build for yourself, do your own thing.
Right.
But if you want to build for God, because a lot of us build for ourselves and then slap God on top
That's
of it.
right. That's
It
right.
don't work like that.
That's good.
And so if you want to build from him, you have to diligently go to him. Hey, is this what you said?
Right.
Okay, cool. Hold on. Is this what you said?
Right.
Okay, cool. Like, we had real checks
Absolutely.
through phases in our building. We still do it now.
Absolutely.
Like,
And then be okay with him saying no.
yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And putting your expectations to the side. Because when the results come in and it's not what you expected, then you're like, did I hear from you, God? It's like, yeah, because whomever in Kansas heard this sermon
Yeah.
and changed her life, would change her family's life, which is going to be the next president or
Exactly.
whatever. So you
Right.
don't know what God's intended, because He's going to look overall, and
Exactly.
we're so like this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't get to choose. You don't get to choose your harvest.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yes.
God just has intentionality and specifications for it. And I think that what we just decided is that God's way is just better.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't always feel like that. And that's not, I know that sounds like super
It's
like
true.
righteous and stuff.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm messing it up all the time. But I just think that the foundationally,
Yeah.
that is what we try to stick to.
Yeah.
I want to tell a story about timing.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is now in relation to Zoe, actually. So we've been talking about building blueprint. But when Matthew and I would say when we first got married, we weren't not trying to have a baby, if you can catch my drift.
We
But
caught it.
right. But there was definitely a period of time, like a year, I would say a year and a half, where we were actively like, we want a baby, we want a baby, we want a baby. And I mean, y'all, I would be like peeing on them sticks time and time, like months and months and months, and it just wasn't happening. And I mean, I love my husband. He was so supportive and always being there, because I started thinking like, oh, it's me, like it's something wrong with me, or maybe something I did in my past, and now God is saying, you know, it was just all this stuff, right? But now, like fast forward, right, and now that we have Zoe, now it's like, man, God, like you knew, right, that Zoe wasn't for then, she was for now, right? And so some of us are looking for that like premature blessing.
That's good.
And it's like, man, like if you just hold on and just wait, like that promise that you're looking for, it's going to come to pass,
so
but
good,
in
Fallon.
God's timing, right? And it was a tough season. That waiting period was a tough season for Matthew and I. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Like it was a lot of tears, a lot of, you know, there would be times I'm just in the shower bawling my eyes out, and he'll just come in and just hold me and stuff. And so I wanted to thank you publicly for that, babe, because you were really supportive of me during that time. And yeah, but God knew. He knew we needed Zoe now. And she's just the biggest bundle of joy. So, but God's timing is perfect. I say all that to say that. So
Absolutely.
One of the most difficult things to do when you get a word or a prophecy, or you know the Lord, you heard him clear. Like me and my wife sitting here together, this guy prophesied all this, and we're like, okay, cool. But then you don't understand what you did is you went, ding, you hit the clock.
Exactly. That's it, Lonnie.
And it's like, you're not, you know how they tell you get the prophecy, but he don't tell you everything in between.
Right.
You're like, well, Lord, you know all things. Go on and make that thing happen. And our clock is not his clock. It's all perfect timing. So speaking of time, with everything y'all got going on, I know that y'all got a new house, y'all a new marriage, new baby, new
Don't
church.
have a new house.
Yeah, new house is coming though. Hey.
New house is coming.
Lonnie
Hey,
he just prophesied it. He
New
said, y'all
house.
got a new house. I'm receiving it.
I'm just
Touch
telling
and
y'all,
agree.
new house,
Let me
new
tell you
church.
about my best. Come on, man.
So how do y'all make time for each other? Because church, pastors leading the church, lot. Y'all still work.
Yeah.
You still got 9 to 5 or entrepreneur, whichever side. How do y'all make time for each other so that y'all making sure y'all pouring into each other?
Yeah.
Like we try to go out at least once a week on a Friday.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, we was talking yesterday and she was like, babe, we haven't went on a solo, like just me and her in a minute. So we had to get that on the calendar. How do y'all manage that to make sure that y'all being there just not for all the things you're doing, but for each other? Because first ministry, of course, is
100%.
marriage.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. You want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh, no. Yeah, I would just say it's just, like you said, keeping the main thing the main thing.
Right.
I made a vow to her that I am, and this is the thing. Let me be transparent. It has been times where I failed at it.
And me too. Me too.
Yeah, even in both of our seasons, like it's because where I'm a grinder, right? So like if I get locked in, I'm locked in. And she had to come to me. This might have been 5 or 6 weeks ago, and she was just like, "Man, sometimes I feel like you see the church more than you see me." And you know, and there's times when I was like, when Zoza first got here, I was like, man, I feel like my daughter's stealing my wife.
Right.
You know, like that's a real
good.
thing.
Yeah.
That's good because that's often what the process is.
Yes.
Because for men, it's going out and making that bread, right?
Exactly.
Go get after that hustle.
Right.
And for women, when we have babies, listen.
Right.
we in another world.
I'm in a whole nother, and this
Yeah.
is our first baby
Right,
too. And so
right.
that was a big transition, which I'm happy you being transparent about it. Of just like Matthew and I navigating on like, okay, how can we get back to us, right?
Mm.
Because it's like, okay, we have this new baby and she got to get taken care of, right? And then we have this church and that's got to get taken care of. But we got to be good 1st. And so, yeah, I think just us figuring out, and I feel like we're still figuring it out, but like we make it a point to, it's like for instance, the other week I was kind of having a rough day, and Matthew was like, "Hey, call your grandma and see if she can come watch Zoe." And so I was like, "Okay." So then I called her, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll be over after work." And she came over, and he was like, "Okay, I'm taking you to this new restaurant." And he knows I like to try new places, and we tried like it was a hot pot place in Chinatown, and we loved it. We had so much fun.
I think I want to go tonight. But,
Here. But even doing little things like that, right? Which I feel like excites both of us. We are big foodies, so we love trying new places.
and I would say, baby, like I think in addition to that, what we had to recognize is we don't want to lose us.
Yes.
So like what is
And that takes effort.
it has
Yes.
to be we had to recognize. I think that we had to go through a season to where we felt like we weren't us.
Yeah.
To recognize that, or that almost essentially the little bit that we lost us.
Yeah.
To figure out that we missed us enough
Missed it.
that we have to prioritize it. Because
Right.
even that point in time, like there were times where we would be together, but we weren't present.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
we would be together, and she's thinking about Zoe. Or I'm thinking about Zoe, or I'm thinking about church, I'm thinking about meetings,
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about business stuff. And like, so we're here, but we're not here.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I had to recognize, like, nah, like, I want my wife.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and I want to be a husband. And I
Right.
need to figure out. So there are times when it's like, even when it's difficult, like, nah, she got to go with her grandma.
Yeah.
You got to go with your granny. Like, so we'll come back. We'll come pick you up in a little bit.
Something that you just said, which kind of I keep having like, hey, wait a minute. You said I want my wife, which is what a lot of husbands say.
Mm-hmm.
But then you followed it with I want to be a husband,
100%.
which is not what a lot of husbands say.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that he hangs his hat on, is that, listen, if I'm going to do anything well or try my darndest to do the best of my ability is to be a great husband and be a great father.
Yeah.
Like all this other stuff can fall to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of husbands are more concerned about what a wife is bringing to them. So I know that is a foundational thing for you that is helping
Absolutely.
this marriage tremendously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're the head. You got to lead in that.
For sure. I
Absolutely.
think that's just like I don't know if centralistic is a word, but I think that's part of like the cult, public school there. But
Big on the calf.
you know what it is. So, but the thing is that a lot of I can't make her be a better wife,
Right.
but I can be a better husband,
Right.
And I think that and if I take the lead and initiative in that, and
That's
hopefully
right.
that'll
That's
inspire
right.
and lead her into doing the same.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why a lot of marriages fail, because a lot of people want a wife, or a lot of husbands want a wife but don't want to be a husband.
That's
Right.
so
Or
right.
and then on the flip side, there's a lot of women who want to be a wife, who want a marriage but don't want to, or want a wedding but don't want to be a wife.
Exactly.
Don't want the marriage.
Right.
Exactly.
Want the wedding.
They want
So
the
you gotta-
wedding. They wanted
Yeah.
that wedding
Pictures
day.
to post on the gram.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
whatever else, right?
I tell people all the time, Matthew and I say it all the time, it is better to marry late than to marry wrong or prematurely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Like, it is way better to just wait, like,
Yeah.
until
Absolutely.
like you know that you are ready for what marriage is, till death do us part, sickness and in health, through everything, like good, bad, ugly. You got to be ready for what comes, because the enemy, we know this, he does not like marriage.
He does
And he
not.
especially does not like godly marriage, and so he's gonna do everything
I
to
be
try to
kinda-
attack. What?
Never mind.
No, say it. I know you on your
ahead.
voice buttons. Go ahead, and say it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I still got to keep my, but y'all know me. Y'all know I'm good.
We know.
No, I want you to say it.
No,
I'm
but I would
interested.
say that's why it be kind of making me mad at times when some of these people be trying to rush people into marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially like, and we do that in the Christian space a lot.
Absolutely.
Because it's like it's better to marry than burn.
Burn.
And I
Right.
get that. Like you're saying like, hey, but but y'all are pushing young, immature individuals
Absolutely.
into covenant because you
Covenant.
don't want them to sin and have sex.
Right.
Now I'm with you. We want people we want to abstain. We want so like, but we can teach them both.
Right.
We can teach them why
Absolutely.
they should abstain and why it is good to wait until marriage, because those things are not mutually exclusive.
No.
Like we should teach sexual morality, and we should teach abstinence. Period. And we should also teach about being healthy when you get into marriage.
Absolutely.
Because what you're doing is you're basically putting somebody into a covenant prematurely just so they cannot sin in sex.
Right,
But they'll
right.
sin in
Fear-based.
disrespecting their wife.
Yeah.
They'll sin in disrespecting their
Okay.
spouse. They'll sin in being prideful. They'll sin in
Yes,
being angry.
right.
They won't steward themselves. He won't love his
Absolutely.
wife as Christ loved the church and present her faultless. Like, you won't do those things, but they can have sex.
And it's all sin.
And,
And it's all
dumb.
sin. And it's like, oh, but this is that
Yeah.
sin.
No.
No, it's all sin.
So I'm not downplaying sin, because we need to
Right.
teach and disciple into both.
Absolutely.
But what you're doing is that you're trying to stop one sin by putting them into covenant so they can sin more.
Right.
And what we have to do is
That's
we need to
good.
disciple people through both.
Yeah.
Teach and love and hold people accountability, singles, on why we should abstain and why it's important to glorify God with our body. End of story. And then also in the new story, we should be able to disciple people and teach people about how we should act maturely in marriage so that you can have healthy. Because then the thing is, your sex will be better when your marriage is healthier.
That's
Hello.
right. That's
So
right.
if everything is just about sex, then why are you putting them into covenant?
Come on.
Exactly. You need to give them a foundation to stand on, because
Golly.
marriage, what we say, marriage is for thugs.
Yeah,
Come
you
on.
gotta be-
You
it's
got
a-
to.
yeah, it's a
You
crime.
have to. Okay.
One of the things that we stand on is servanthood, and so we
Yes.
know if we're serving each other, so that means I'm putting her before me.
Yeah.
She's gonna be good, because that means I have her best interest, not mine.
Exactly.
And that's gonna be uncomfortable sometimes for
Exactly.
me, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
If you have somebody immature,
Mm-hmm.
they're not gonna do that.
No.
They're gonna be like, a lot of the shows that we watch with couples, they'll talk. You'll have the guy. He'll be like, "Yeah, man, I'm looking for a wife. You know, I got the house, I got the car, I got the job, and all I need is this wife, this place right here." But now you got to stay right here, though. Like, you
Right.
can't do nothing. You can't work. You can't have your own life. You can't go get yours. He's looking for somebody just to fit in their pocket, and vice versa. Well, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Because you already selfish. Because now you're just
That's
trying to
it.
grab somebody and put them there, and that's not gonna ever work.
Yeah.
Because that
Correct.
person gonna be like, now you got me trapped. I'm in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are trying to marry somebody that are trying to meet somebody that they've already married in their mind.
Mm.
Like, essentially,
Tell me more about that. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
That's
like,
good.
we have an idea. A lot of people have an idea of who their
Mhm.
spouse should be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And internally, mentally, emotionally, and
Mhm.
sometimes, if I were to go there, even spiritually, people have married and yoked themselves to an idea.
That's so
And
Absolutely.
what
good.
happens is that you meet a real person
Hmm.
and they don't match up to this idea that you made here.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, there's friction, not because this person's a bad person, but because they haven't met this ideal.
This idol.
Right. This idol.
This
This
ideal
idol.
/ idol
Exactly.
that you've created, because that's not a real person.
No.
We went through that like that, and it's so natural because you see social media, you see other marriages.
Absolutely.
That's why I hate relationship goals. Shut up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You keep trying to build yourself on. You're trying to insert yourself into other people's marriages when you haven't seen their struggles, you haven't seen their foundation, you have no idea what it took to
Absolutely.
get there, and a lot of times they lying to you.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
You haven't. You know what a real goal should be? To be able to look introspectively into somebody's relationship and see hardships, good times, bad times, and see
Absolutely.
stability, and say, you know what, that's a goal of mine. To be able to
Right.
persevere and persist through the nonsense, through the BS, and through the hard times. And I'm not talking about like infidelity or abuse, but I'm talking about just
Right.
Life.
Oh,
the
real
process of
life.
two becoming
Right.
one.
Yes.
Is a problem.
That
And
is
what
the
you-
problem.
And what you said is that people don't want two to become one.
No.
They want to have their idea, and they
Yeah.
want you to fit inside of their one.
Exactly.
They
It's
want
not
one
you
and
becoming
one.
at
Right,
all.
right.
Right.
Something that we are very intentional about on this podcast is to be authentic.
Mhm.
So a couple of seasons or episodes back, we did our own episodes highlighting our trauma. So he had his own episode that talked about his trauma and how it affected our marriage,
Mhm.
and I had my own.
Wow.
And we are wanting people to see, because we get that a lot. Oh, relationship goals. Oh, we want to be like y'all. Do you know what we had to
Do
go
you
through
really want to be?
to get here?
Hello.
Right. Like, it's a realness.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, people think baby, I'll send them right to you. Y'all gonna FedEx him right on back. Okay, first flight. Okay.
Right?
It's a lot of trauma that I brought to our marriage that I didn't know. The best way to say it is I didn't even know it was there like that
Yeah.
until I got married. And then she's doing things lovingly and I'm rejecting it because I don't know how to receive love because I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this is a setup.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things to say all the time. I feel like somebody set me up because everything was a setup when I was in Detroit.
Yeah.
Everything was a setup. Like if something good happened, it was a setup for something.
Yeah.
And when you bring that in, like points of view of women, how I view men, all of that stuff was to the left. Just because of childhood. So then I bring this to a marriage, and then she got brothers, and she got her dad, and then her, which the main thing was her because me and my mom wasn't good. And then when we got to the bottom of that, we worked through that.
Yeah.
So
With everything that we talked about when it comes to marriage, we said you got to be a thug to be married. You have to be a super thug to be married and then pastor a church together. That is only through the grace of God, right?
Yeah.
So what would you tell another couple that is in the same position where they know they heard from God? They are called to be pastor and first lady of a church. They're called to full-time ministry. What advice would you give them?
I would tell them one to, and this sounds like, of course, but it can easily not happen, is to truly keep God at the center of your marriage. Because it's so easy to think like, oh, well, we're the pastors of a church. And of course, like we're praying for other people all the time. But remember that like this is your first ministry. So you need to
Absolutely.
constantly be praying for your spouse, right? Constantly be praying for your marriage. And then I also would say get some accountability, not in the sense of accountability for the church. You should have that, right? But you should also have some couples that are holding you accountable to your marriage and keeping you accountable to the promise that you made in, keeping that ministry your first. So I would definitely always recommend to keep those people in your corner, like, hey, so they can check in on like, hey, how was your marriage? Hey, how are you? Like, how are you really? Because it's good to, keep the smile on your face and everything, but have those people that you can have those real, raw, authentic conversations like you were saying earlier, so that way you can also have that release place because it's not easy at all, and so you need those people that you can be yourself around. So
That's good, Mama.
What would you say?
What advice would I give?
Yeah,
from a marriage standpoint.
Yes, a couple that is called in the same way that you guys are.
I think whatever work that you decide that you're going to put in for your church, don't let it be more than what you'll do for your marriage.
I don't like that.
Because and this is more so for a husband. Because like I said, and if you're like me, like I'm a grinder, so I'll lock in. It'll be times when I was working 18, 19-hour days, like trying to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Because I think a lot of times people think that pastoralship is just preaching on Sundays. Preaching is the easiest thing that I do every week.
Right.
Say that right there. And that's not saying like about my skill set. It's like that is the least. That's the fun thing, right? Like there's so much if you want to do it right and excellent. There's so many logistical, administrative things that have to go through it, and especially when you're planning. We don't have 10 paid staff members.
Right.
We ain't got a whole front office.
Right.
No, you know what I'm saying? So I say that all to say is that the moment that I decided that I was going to do this, I went to her and I was just like, hey, I feel called to this. Do you feel called to this?
Absolutely. Yes, this is so good.
That is good.
This is so good.
Yeah.
Matthew never had expectations of me to be like
the
first lady, like the roles that, and I feel like I put that on myself. Like, oh, well, then I remember we had one of our first conversations. I was like, oh, well, if we're going to pastor church, I need to go to seminary school. And he was like, no, you don't. And I was like, yes, I do.
You need a wife.
Right.
But see, that's the thing when you talk about traumas.
Right.
In her mind.
Right.
In her mind, she was like, I don't want to feel like you are putting yourself ahead of me.
Right.
So with that, we had this little competitive edge that was in. She's like, well, if you're going to pastor, I remember one time I was like, man, she's like, well, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
I was like, look, man, I just need you to just have my back. Like, man, just make sure that you're there. Make sure that you just, man, that you follow me there. And or we were talking about something. She was like, I'll be there beside you. And I was like, hey,
let's get it straight.
I was like, but I wasn't even saying it like that.
Right. But that's the trauma.
Trigger.
I was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not gonna.
Okay.
What you mean? Right.
So to protect your marriage is to make sure that y'all have and I don't let nobody else put expectations on my wife.
Right. Yeah.
So we co-pastor together. Like
Right.
some people call first lady, some people
Yeah.
call PFAL, whatever. But like we pastor the church together.
Yeah.
She oversees. She has a fundamental role in our organizational
Right.
leadership and as well as our pastoralship. But that's not because I told her that.
No.
She would ask me, she's like, well, what do you see me doing? And I'm like, whatever you feel like God tells you to do.
That would make me
Amen.
so mad though. I'm like, no, you need to tell
That's
me.
not a lot of direction.
He's like,
Give
no,
me
you need.
direction.
Yeah, he's like, pray, God will tell you, and I'm like, no, you tell me.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that he did that because other people, other leaders, they have put this expectation on their wife.
Yeah.
And
And the
it's
church
not
can't put no expectation on her.
right. Yeah.
Well, I bet you protect her in that way.
Yeah.
It's protection.
Yes.
I love
yes,
that.
Ain't nobody
Absolutely.
tell my wife what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
Wait, wait,
hey,
wait.
I'm with you.
Don't get
Yeah,
him
man, don't
crunk.
put no
Matt,
expectation.
Don't get him crunk.
You
Hey, super thugs, okay?
You can't do that, man.
See, then you're not gonna be pastor no more. I tell these people, I said just because we got that label, don't get it confused.
Bro, come on, man. I tell my church all the time, like, the light is green behind my wife at any point in time.
Yeah.
For anything.
I move all this furniture behind her.
Please,
So,
please, let's get back to the main thing. Let's get to the main
We love Jesus.
Right.
We all friends.
Blueprint 930. No,
Right.
So before we wrap up,
let's do that because
tell us where Blueprint is, when y'all
Yes.
have service and all that. Go
social
ahead and say.
stuff like
Yeah.
a gram, all that. Tell us.
Yeah.
we do.
Drop it.
Thank y'all for having some.
Right. This means
No,
so
we gotta
much.
get y'all back. We ran
us.
out of time today.
No,
Only
the
2
timing
hours
like
for y'all.
this.
You did.
Blueprint Church, 9:30 and 11:30 on Sunday mornings at 9371 Richmond Avenue. You want to tell them our social media, babe?
I don't know.
Okay, Blueprint Church HTX on
Oh, yeah.
Instagram and Facebook and on YouTube too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If y'all on Instagram, y'all don't see them. It's every other video. They on there. We seen it. Well, look, we proud of y'all.
Thank
We're happy
you.
to call y'all friends. And like I
Yes.
said, we got to get y'all back.
Yeah.
And we are called to pastors. We're
Mhm.
called to people in ministry. So we
Yeah.
got y'all's back. You know that, right?
We know that.
We love y'all
love
too.
y'all.
So that's it for Way of the Walkers. I hope you guys enjoyed our episode, and if it brought any value to you, make sure you like this and you share it so it can get out to as many people as possible. We love you guys.
Subscribe to their channel too.
And
Period.
subscribe and click that notification button. See you guys later.
Bye.
We'll build this together. Any type of weather. Unity is key. Keeping first G-O-D. We will conquer the world. Baby, just you and me. I can vision us now. One big happy family.